of the shit, you'll find a hidden treasure. The very worst things are funny as fuck, and we know this much is true. We know this is true. When you laugh at the world, she laughs right back at you.
Okay, so today I'm doing a little something different than what's been going on for the last month or two, and completely changing topics to something fun and pop culture-y. So I think people will enjoy this if they're into Johnny Depp, because my guest today is Izze, and she was at the trial, and I follow Izze on Twitter, and she gets a lot of really interesting attention from people that were on the other side of who won that trial, the US trial. The Amber, I don't even want to say her whole name because yuck, right? But she attracts some weird types, and they give Izze a lot of grief, and we can talk about that a little bit as well. But I've really been wanting to talk about the case, and since Izze was there, who better to have? So thank you so much for agreeing to talk with me today, Izze.
You're welcome. Hi.
Hi. So first of all, you're a lot younger than I am. So how did you become a fan of Johnny Depp? What was your introduction to the world of JD?
Well, I was not allowed to watch his movies as a kid, so I started watching his movies when I was 17 because he was cast in Fantastic Beasts. And I wanted to because when he was cast, I was like, oh, I don't know who he is though, because I've never seen anything he was in. So I started watching his movies, I think May 2017, and I loved all his characters. And then I started looking at his interviews, and based on his interviews and just comparing that to the image that the media was creating of him at the time, something wasn't adding up. So I kind of knew he was innocent, and there were some stuff videos on YouTube. I remember there was a YouTuber who made a video pointing out just their body language in public that really pointed to her being abusive. I don't know if you've seen, there's a show that they were on where Johnny redid her car and pranked her with it. And she thought that her car had been stolen. So when she found out she had been pranked, she starts slapping him, playfully.
Leave all of this. You. Leave all of this. You.
How did I never see this? I feel like I saw everything during the trial. What? This is new. Okay.
Yeah, this was a long time ago, early 2018. Someone pointed out no abuse victim would, even if it's a joke, would slap their abuser like that. And she was cursing out the pretend cops and stuff, and her dad was there, and it was really gross.
Wow.
So that's what really started to point to that was me realizing something is very wrong here. And then that summer I had to get ankle surgery because I'd ripped a ligament. So I was housebound for 6 weeks and I had nothing to do. So then I started to really research this case. And then at the same time, it was when Johnny Depp decided to start coming forward with things.
Now, was this before or after the UK trial?
This was before. This was 2 years before.
All right. So you start putting the pieces together and you're like, something's not right. So there was a little online community with videos and people talking about it.
It was very tiny. The videos wouldn't get more than 5,000 views. I remember there was some sort of document or something that was released saying that Amber had punched him twice in the face on her birthday. And when I saw that, I went on her Instagram and commented how can you call yourself a domestic violence advocate? And she blocked me within 10 minutes. I thought that was funny. So I had a Twitter account that I was using to look at JK Rowling's tweets. That's it. And so I just posted it on there, and then a bunch of people in that community saw it and were oh yeah, she's blocked me too, it's really funny, she's really that sensitive.
So people, oh boy, people were already coming out. She already knew people saw it. That's nuts. I'll tell you, when Johnny was going through that hard time and he was on drugs and he was with her, I wasn't looking at tabloids and stuff. And I live here in Hollywood, and I used to be very into that stuff. I used to read Perez Hilton, back when Britney shaved her head was kind of when I stopped looking at all that stuff, because I just sort of aged out of giving a shit. And actors and pop stars, like I don't even know who half of them are anymore because I'm just getting too old. Like I don't know who the new people are on the scene. But I have a friend, a very close friend. Her husband has hung out with Johnny Depp many times. He's very close with one of Johnny Depp's inner circle. So I was at their house, and I don't know how it. Oh, I think they had a People magazine on their table, and it was Amber Heard and Johnny on the cover, and I was like, "Who is that?" And then the guy that I know that knows Johnny is like, "Oh my God, that's this actress so and so." And then he started telling me that they were in a violent relationship. He told me the thing about Johnny Depp getting his lines fed to him through the earpiece, and I was just like, oh my God. But I took it as, I mean, it's so interesting because I've been a fan of Johnny Depp since 21 Jump Street in the 80s. I'm pretty old. But it was interesting how just hearing those few things, I kind of turned on Johnny. First of all, I was a little disappointed that I didn't know he had divorced Vanessa and was with some new chick, and she was so young. And he was in a bad place, and I was kind of just like, ew, Johnny. Bleh. Anyway, so during all of that time, I was kind of like thinking Johnny was someone he wasn't. And when I watched the trial, I was like, how wrong I was, because I could see the person that he is. And it's just so interesting how media or a rumor or gossip can change your perception. But anyway, that was when he got with her. I had heard about it. Was like, wait, what? He's married to some like new young chick and he's all fucked up. And what's happening with Johnny Depp? You had injured your ankle and you did what now?
Well, I started to like look into like what was going on with this case and all like the little hidden detail things. I'm not entirely sure when Brian started posting videos that he's that Brian fella.
That Brian fella.
Yeah,
yes.
Like the Incredibly Average channel. But he posts his first video was actually debunking how IO Tillet Wright was like twisting shit and like lying about where he was, and that was really weird. And I think that's people started to pick up like it goes so deep. So
and how does that
like,
Brian fella have access to all of these recordings and things? Where did he get all this stuff?
I don't know. I think because I thought it was just he got it from court documents, because a lot of people were getting things from the public court documents, because once he sued her, all this evidence started becoming public. But like not public like you just Google it, you find it. It's like you have to dig for it on their website, but it's like you can get it. So I thought that's where he got it from. I'm not entirely sure. I never asked him.
What about the recordings?
And then
I didn't punch you, by the way. I'm sorry that I
hit me last night. You fucking
across the face in a proper slap, but I was hitting you. It was not punching you. Babe, you're not punched.
Don't tell me what it feels like to be punched.
I fucking was hitting you.
You can't.
I don't know what the motion of my actual hand was, but you're fine. I did not hurt you. I did not punch you.
Did you just fucking? Did you punch me in the fucking jaw?
Eventually, doesn't matter how friendly it is.
That's
how
not
cool.
true. I'm not the one who fucking throws fucking pots and
Those are different.
whatever
That's
the
different.
fucking else at me.
That's different. Because I've thrown pots and pans does not mean that you come and knock on the door. Just because there are vases, you run away every single fight. Baby.
Because you start physical fights.
Such a baby.
Because
Grow
you
the fuck up,
because you start physical fights.
I did start a physical fight.
Yeah, you did. So I had to get the fuck out of there.
Yes, you did. So you did the right thing, the big thing. You know what? You are admirable.
There can be no physical violence.
I can't promise you that I'll be perfect. I can't promise you I won't get physical again. God, I fucking sometimes get so mad I lose it.
More open, so that it would hit me, and it hit me.
I didn't mean to. I didn't know
It
that.
hit me in the. Might have said like, "What the what, you know, whatever," because I just been hit in the head with the corner of a door.
I'm so sorry. I did not. I'm sorry.
And then I stood up, and then you blocked me.
I remember hitting you as a response to the door thing. About hitting you with the door or hitting your head. I did not mean to, nor...
You didn't mean to hit me in the head with the door, but you meant to punch me in the jaw.
I meant to hit you, and I did not do this thing with the door. I do remember, I did mean to hit you.
So that you didn't mean.
The door? No, God, no, I didn't.
But punching me in the jaw.
I didn't. Okay, I'm sorry I hit you. I did mean to hit you, but it was in response. I just reacted in response to my foot. I just reacted, and I'm sorry. It's below me.
Amber, I lost a fucking finger, man. Come on. I had a mineral can of mineral spirits thrown at my nose.
Do you understand what I'm asking you?
No.
No? You tell Johnny Depp that you did mean to hit him.
Objection. That's argumentative and it misstates what the report.
I tried to push him out of it. He called it a cold clock. I mean, he's just very dramatic.
Isn't it true, Miss Heard?
I hit Johnny one time when he... Sorry, I'll wait.
No, you answer the question.
You're going to get up on the stand, Johnny, and say she started it? Really? Tell people that it was a fair fight and see what the jury and judge think. Tell the world, Johnny. Tell them, Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp, man, I'm a victim too of domestic violence, and
yes.
It's a fair fight. And see how many people believe or side with you.
The recordings that we all heard, like while the trial was going on, were like, I have so many questions, and I'm gonna like jumble it up. I'm sorry. Keep telling me like the trajectory towards you becoming a super stan and end up going to the trial. Like, how did that end up happening?
Well, I kind of got involved in Twitter and just spreading like the truth of what was going on. And at the time, it was a lot of like within the Harry Potter fandom, I saw a lot of people just getting angry. And that's actually what started people hating J.K. Rowling. It wasn't the like trans stuff. It was she supported Johnny Depp and they all jumped on her for that. And once that happened and that started to fall apart because over time, like it started to come out that she was right, they, instead of like, apologizing for it, they needed something else to hate her for to justify that. So originally it was Nagini in Fantastic Beasts is Asian, so that's racist. Then it was Dumbledore's not gay enough. Like he's gay, but he's not doing gay things, so that's homophobic. Or queer baiting, I think was what they were saying. And it just kept going, and then they started digging through
Where's the kink in this childhood story? Come on now, people.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Then it was like the goblins are anti-Semitic stereotypes, and like then they started scrolling through her Twitter and posting like she liked this tweet and it's like transphobic, and I said how does that prove anything? And she then had to make a statement saying she didn't mean to like that tweet, which I don't think she did. Like I think she was reading something and hit like by accident. Eventually when she did actually start speaking out against like gender ideology or whatever, people already hated her. Like they were just waiting for like the one thing that they could say, this is what's wrong.
That is so fucked up, man.
So that's what I was kind of following.
Yeah, well, I love how strong she is. She's like, look, first of all, I'm untouchable, so you can't shut me the fuck up. And second of all, buckle up, kittens, because I'm not going anywhere. And she paved the way for, everyone, including people like me, because just being on Twitter has emboldened me to do the little bonus series that I'm doing, which is not really a little bonus series anymore. It's like more views than my regular episodes. But yeah, it's so weird. I don't want to skip too much ahead, but I ended up in a rad fem space somehow, because do you know who Kelly J. Keane is?
Yeah.
Okay, so she's in a Twitter space right now, actually. I dipped in for half a second while we were having technical issues. I was like, oh, they're in there right now. Of course, they were dogpiling on her as usual. But I go into this Twitter space, and it's Kelly J. Keane, and all these feminists, I'm assuming, rad femmes, are just dogpiling on her because they don't like who she's talking to, which network she's using, who she's friends with. Like, you're not turfing correctly, so let's all yell at you. It was so weird. But in that space, there was someone whose handle was like, I believe Amber Heard is innocent, right? So that space ends. I end up in another Twitter space, and I mention like credibility, because I was like, well, you guys are mad at Kelly J. Keane for going on conservative shows. Well, left-wing shows won't have her. So like, what the fuck is she supposed to do? If we want to get the word out about this madness, she's got to get it on TV somehow, right? And I was like, and if you're going to be mad about people for credibility, like I could easily judge all of you, because I see the last person who was speaking is like a big Amber Heard supporter. And I saw with my own eyes that she's a big fat liar. And those women were like, wait, what? Like,
Yeah,
don't come to our
'cause
space and talk shit about Amber Heard. And I was like, what, am I in the fucking Twilight Zone? It felt very culty. It was so
there's so
scary and
many.
weird.
That's what I've noticed. So many of the people who support Amber Heard, they're either teenage girls who have a crush on her, or they're radfems who are like very not like very much into like the whole turf thing and like find it
Yeah.
like empowering to be called a turf and stuff. And I'm like, but the person that you think is like leading you has supported Johnny Depp.
Yeah, I'm like, I definitely don't want to start a fight with the Radfems, but like, I am going to speak my mind, and that was my experience. But fuck, it's so odd because I personally don't know how anyone could watch the trial and come away with any other opinion than that she's a horrible actress that can't even cry when she really fucking needs to.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And, you know, a full on violent person who beats her sister and anyone who gets in her way and then puts shit in people's beds. I mean, like, how anyone can come away thinking it's the opposite. Like, either you didn't look or there's something wrong with your brain and you need to, like, thank God you're not in law, or or you're just willfully being deranged and not cool because you're supporting an abuser. Anyway, that that was just an odd experience to me because I didn't expect to have my Johnny Depp connection in that space because I was just thinking about other things. And I saw that and I felt like, oh, I can make a little comment. It was like, no, bitch, you can't make that comment here. And I was like, whoa. Anyway, please continue.
Yeah. So the second Fantastic Beast movie came out, and they decided that it was a flop, even though it wasn't. It made back 3 times its budget, which would not make it a flop. But because it hadn't made as much as like the first Fantastic Beast movie, they said, you know, it's Johnny Depp's fault, basically is what they were saying. Johnny Depp, and then J.K. Rowling had was a bad writer, apparently now.
Was the same character in the first and second Fantastic Beasts, or was this a new character and he was playing it in the second
It
one?
was the same character.
So he was in both
The only
movies?
thing is, he was in the first movie for about 10 seconds, because the way the
Oh,
plot was his character was disguised as someone else for the entire first movie, and then at the end it's revealed who it is. So he's in the first movie, and I remember I went to Carnegie Hall actually to see that at like a special charity event. And when he appeared on screen, it was like 2016. So like there was nothing countering her allegations at the time. And when he came on screen, people cheered,
ah,
which
all
I
right.
like I didn't think of much at the time, but like when you see he was fired from this role because apparently he's bringing them bad press, he's not, because people never cared.
Yeah, I think so many people to this day have never heard of Amber Heard, don't know who she is.
Oh yeah. My dad didn't know who she is, and then he thought Johnny Depp was just a junkie. Then he watched a trial and he was just like, she's crazy.
Yeah, it's sad too because she's not the kind of you know, the things that are wrong with her, according to Dr. Shannon Curry, which I completely like. She's that woman. How brilliant was she? I mean, love her so much, but her diagnosis, I believe those to be true. And we know that those types of diagnoses, they usually don't look for help. Well, not usually. I mean, I think that changes as stigmas and things like that. But her particular setup, she's not going to be looking to get any better.
She's like basically a professional victim though, because it's not, she wasn't just being victimized by Johnny Depp. That's what I noticed, like being at the trial. She decided every single person in that room she was a victim of, and everybody outside she was a victim of, to the point where she was making things up and telling it to the media.
When they were describing what was going on in that living situation with those penthouses, they were in a cult being bankrolled by him, and she was the cult leader. There's the entire dynamic is there from start to finish. She could do it again, honestly. If she had any brains, she would do it again. But anyway, who do you think's paying her rent right now?
Elon Musk.
Me too. Okay, we'll get to that. But I just had to skip forward because that's who I think is paying her rent as well. Because you don't name your baby Una unless Elon Musk is the father. Anyway, okay, please get back to you.
So I just kind of like was following everything, and I started a little YouTube channel to like debunk her bruises and stuff when I was like 19. And then I quit dancing and moved to London. And when I moved to London, I was going to professional acting school. So there were people in the industry there. And I remember we were standing in the hallway one time, and there was someone in a different class who was like one of the only other American people there. And he was from LA and said that his friend worked at a department store. And Amber and Cara Delevingne, when in the department store, were snorting cocaine in the dressing room, and that they couldn't kick them out because they're celebrities. And that's like a common thing that goes on there. So I thought that was really interesting because he was involved in the case at all. He had no like bias, like nothing. He just said like, oh yeah, I know somebody who's seen her do that. So yeah. I just found that really interesting. And it, also the fact he mentioned Cara Delevingne, because pretty much nobody knows that she has any connection to this at all. So, but there was really nothing going on. And then COVID happened. So they pushed back the London trial. And I was supposed to go to the London trial.
Oh, really?
But the dorm I was staying in decided to close down for the summer because of COVID. So I had to come back to New York. And that went on, and I followed that every day. And I know
so tell me about that London trial, because that must have been infuriating.
Well, at the time, nobody was paying attention to like all the weird things she was doing. She walked in, if you see the first day, like linked with like I think one of her lawyers and her sister, like marching in like she's some sort of like strong woman. And before the trial had even ended, they were giving closing statements. She went outside and did a press conference. She like gave a statement to the press. And we're just like, but it's not over yet. You haven't won. And this was months before the verdict came out. They were still concluding the trial. There were so many weird. She was like out clubbing every night while this trial was going on. She wasn't even supposed to be there every day.
That's what I heard.
It wasn't her. She wasn't a party in the case. So she was supposed to be there for 2 days. And then when she found out who the judge was, she decided to show up every day. And she would, according to people who were there watching this, would sit in court staring at him, just like off to the side, like in the gallery, staring at him. And he wouldn't look at her. And apparently, like you see him in the Virginia trial, he seems like, you know, more relaxed and like kind of like laughing and everything. But he apparently was like terrified during the London trial. But you don't see that because it wasn't live streamed.
Right.
But it was up against NGN and like Rupert Murdoch's newspaper. So like we didn't even think like at the time like there could be corruption going on there. But like once the verdict came out, and if you read the judgment, he's just making things up. Like the judge was making things up. He was saying it could be possible Johnny's finger got cut off by him like touching some glass on the floor, and it was weird. And his whole thing was she testified that this happened and said it under oath, so she must be telling the truth.
When you say that when she found out who the judge was, she decided to be there every day, what sort of reputation did this judge have that she was like, ooh?
I don't know, but I think his son worked for the newspaper company that he was suing. And his wife ended up going to like a dinner with one of her lawyers.
Oh, well, fantastic.
So like people think that that's some sort of conspiracy theory, that like the judge was like biased, but in America at least, you wouldn't, if a judge had any connection to either party, like they wouldn't be used.
No. Yeah, that's a definite conflict of interest. I mean, come on. You don't need a law degree to know that. Yeah, that whole, I mean, it's so unfortunate that they even have that, you know, the people who want to say that he's guilty or whatever, that they even have that stupid trial to reference, because the whole thing was so fucking stupid. And she was so rude. I mean, contempt of court much? Go eat your fucking muffin some other time. What was that? Okay.
There was not a single person there though that supported her, because like people were standing outside that courthouse, and they were because they walked through the front doors, so she walked through like a side door. He would walk through the front doors because there was no like order for him not to. And people were there like cheering him on. There was like and this becomes important later, there was like a truck that rolled by like for a divorce lawyer saying like ditch the witch on it with a picture of her.
Oh shit.
Yeah, like people were only there to support him, and he gave him presents on the last day.
Oh, what did he
like? Cards and I think handkerchiefs.
Oh, he thinks of everything.
Yeah, but
he
never
just thinking
gave like a press thing.
I didn't even know he was at that trial, even up till now, and following the whole trial and looking at everybody's YouTube and everything. I didn't know he was at the London trial. That's how much no one covered it. All I see is her being rude and giving her testimony. That's the only footage I've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, she gave testimony. Apparently, she gave the exact same kind of performance in the UK, but it wasn't recorded. Like, it's just a transcript, so you can't really see like what she's doing.
Oh, right. So what are those videos of then where she's eating her muffin? That's not in court. That's
No,
her
that was
recording something.
That was a deposition from 2016 when she wanted the restraining order.
Oh, okay.
So you can like see, like, you watch that video, her stories are a lot less dramatic. Like, they're very like straightforward, like, you know, oh yeah, he hit me one time, he hit me, and then like over time it evolved into like just the most insane story you've ever heard. And whenever she initially came up with like this crazy story, and she was like saying it was the Australia thing. She was saying he smeared mashed potatoes everywhere, he was cutting up her dress, putting meat in it and stuffing in places, there was a bird in the house at some point. And like when we were reading this transcript, we're like, where did she come up with this? Because she never had ever mentioned that before.
From a movie.
Yeah.
I mean, didn't she get a lot of the things that she said in the US trial, like from actual movie scripts?
I mean,
like,
there's the whole thing that she was talking about, like with how he raped her,
right,
was a scene from Gone Girl.
right, where there was no pain. Is that yeah, that's exactly what I was just thinking. I mean, what a fucking lunatic. Who gets out in broad daylight in front of the whole planet Earth and thinks they're going to get away with that? I mean, how smart do you think you are? Like, whoa, you think you're better than Meryl Streep, smarter than every lawyer? Like, fuck, I would love half the confidence, I have to say.
Well, I think that she thought he was too nice to ever sue her. Like, because he's just like a super nice person to everybody. Like, someone sneezed in court, he said, bless you then. Like, so I think that she just thought he would never sue her or say anything.
He promised her total global annihilation.
Yeah.
She should have fucking listened. She had it made in the shade, man. She had it made in the shade when she was with him, and if she didn't want to be with him, she had it made in the shade without him. But she had to go and lie. Okay, please continue.
So yeah, but that the UK trial happened, and then I came back to London for the second year of school, and then the verdict came out, I think November 2nd, and then the UK went back into lockdown, but they had started filming Fantastic Beasts 3, and I think Johnny had filmed for like a week, and then the verdict came out, and there was somebody on the set actually that said his name went off the schedule 2 days later, which I just thought that's so weird that they don't even like, they've seen all this evidence that he had to fight to be in the second movie, and then one thing, all of a sudden he's gone immediately, and they had no problem replacing him within 2 weeks. And he made a public statement saying that he had stepped down because they asked him to, and then Warner Brothers, I think they were trying to make themselves look like the heroes, release an article saying, you know, this producer who had been accused of racism by somebody else and like abusing his power, they told Johnny Depp he needed to resign because of this, like he didn't have a choice.
What's so shocking is when you find out who Johnny Depp is as a person and you see his behavior, how these people in the industry could have done this to him, because they knew him. They had met him, interacted with him, had relationships with him. He's not the kind of person, I mean, if there's anyone on earth that you're going to go ahead and assume, because you never know what goes on behind closed doors, but if you're ever going to assume, he's the person you would assume. There's no fucking way. There's no way this is true. And yet all of these people, and no one stood up for her. I mean, it's just shocking.
Well, they couldn't, because Warner Brothers made the entire cast and crew sign NDAs, according to the person who was on set. They all had to say, if they didn't sign them, like I'm pretty sure they probably would have been fired. And so they weren't allowed to ever speak about him again. And they actually, I was like a couple months after that was trying to find like a video of him at the premiere, and they had deleted all of it. Like any reference that he was ever involved was like off YouTube. And I also noticed that J.K. Rowling stopped posting about Fantastic Beasts and Harry Potter completely after that. Like the only thing she's posted since is the like reboot thing that she like retweeted. But she didn't even retweet like the trailer. She just was completely not involved. And then at the premiere, they had a live stream of the premiere, and they pretended like she wasn't there. But she was there, but she's not in the like their official live stream of the premiere.
Oh, how weird.
So I think they went behind her back with that.
Well, that would make sense. It's probably a decent assumption. Okay, so Fantastic Beasts 3 comes out, and then what?
Well, that came out during the trial, but so like I just kind of like,
fuck, that's so much action. Okay, I didn't realize that happened during the US trial.
Yeah, it came out like that first Friday. They tried to bury it
okay.
because they didn't think they were going to get backlash for firing Johnny Depp. But then when they did get backlash, they just were like, they kind of just released it and didn't really say anything.
Quietly, right. Okay, which it was easy to do because it was COVID.
Yeah. So that came out like April 2022, like I think the 15th. So like the first week. Yeah, I just finished acting school. I came back to the US and I was like, if I'm stuck back in the US because I wanted to stay in London, I might as well just do something I want to do. So I like got a couple retail jobs, like got some money and was like, okay, I'm going to go to Virginia for 6 weeks.
That's awesome.
And
okay, gosh, so you were there for the whole thing?
Yeah.
Whoa. Okay, I did not know that. I might have known that at some point, but it's been so long, like, fuck, you were there the whole time. All right.
Yeah, and so I watched actually jury selection, which nobody was allowed to watch unless you were there.
Okay.
Because that wasn't live streamed. And with the jury selection, so I saw who they picked. I saw like what they were asking them, and like it was because people like to now say the jury was biased or they were all men. I've seen that one, but they don't realize that Amber's team also picked them. Like it wasn't just Johnny's team picking the jury.
Right.
And they were purposely picking people who had no idea what was going on, like who had never seen anything in any newspaper because they were like doing other things. And they had like 100 people to pick from. They had like a lot of people. And we all watched that. And I remember showing up at like 8:30 in the morning, and there was maybe 30 people. Well, by the time we actually went inside, there was about 30 people standing because we didn't know where Johnny was going to go into the building. So they said, oh, he'll come through the front door, and he didn't. But we were all standing by the front door, and there was more media than fans there lined up on the other side of like the road, and they were hiding behind the fences taking pictures of us. And I kept telling everyone, don't give them interviews because they're going to twist what we're saying and what we're here for, and they want to give us interviews, so don't do that. But they weren't listening. They were just giving them interviews. I think my favorite moment was when his team got out of the car and then a van pulled up right in front of them, so they couldn't get pictures. You could like hear them like in the background, like upset.
Was that van a part of it? Was that like a planned thing?
No, that was just some person driving by.
Nice. Whoops.
The second day though, when like the trial began, like I was more so just like freaked out that I was going to be sitting in a room with Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
I wasn't paying attention to anything. She walked in the room and she sat on her side, and we were all on Johnny's side. But then we realized because like it's flat, we couldn't really see Johnny unless we sat at an angle. So we all moved onto her side to look at Johnny better.
Yeah.
And she turned around and started smiling at us because she thought we were there for her. And I think she realized pretty quickly we weren't. And I think by the second day, Eve Barlow, I don't know if you know who that is.
Yeah.
She was there
Dobby?
sitting in the front row. Because each person had their like front row for like friends and security and stuff.
Yeah.
So she was sitting in the front row, and she was just like turning around like every so often and like looking at all of us. We all noticed this. Like we were discussing this because we were like, why does she keep looking at us? That's very weird. The second day, there was another person who was actually at the London trial every single day, had been in the presence of all these people before. She was kicked out of the courtroom for tweeting something in 2016 that could be perceived as a death threat. And we were like,
that was not Eve, but the woman that
no,
was
this other person.
Okay.
And we were all like, how the court get this tweet? Because she wasn't removed by the court. She was like, the sheriff came up and said, doesn't matter how long ago this was, like all threats have to be taken seriously, so you can't go back in. And she was from England, so she didn't want to like fight that. She didn't know like how US law worked. So she was allowed to come back. And that, because we were all really confused, like how they get that. And I got up during like I think it was the testimony where the guy was just verifying all the videos were real, like the security videos. and it was really boring. So I got up to go use the bathroom. And when I walked out of the courtroom, and the bathroom's like right next door, Eve was in the hallway talking to the sheriff that had removed the person, like being reassured by her in like this very like intense conversation. I just walked by and I like made eye contact with her, and I went in the bathroom. So the next day, the same thing happened to me. And the sheriff like came up to me and was like, you're not allowed back in the courtroom. And I was like, why? And she's like, check your social media. She wouldn't tell me what it was, but I found out later because somehow the New York Post got hold of it along with my phone number and my name. So it was crazy. They made up this wild story that 4 police officers, because they weren't police officers, they're sheriffs, but 4 police officers had to physically escort me from the courthouse and ban me from entering ever
I
again.
didn't know anything about this.
Not what happened.
Where the fuck have I been?
Well, this is what all the Amber Heard stands like to post about me constantly.
Yeah.
Because every time I see this, it just gets more and more crazy of like things I apparently did. I was like shouting at Amber in the courtroom and like threatening things, and like there was no way to bring weapons in there either because you had to walk through.
Of course not.
Yeah, it was very just weird. Everyone, because since now it happened twice, everyone else there was like, okay, we all need to lock our Twitter accounts and just be very like not showing who we are or anything like that, because what they were doing was they had a group chat with Eve and they were trying to figure out who we all were to get us kicked out so Johnny wouldn't have any supporters there. And Johnny found out this was happening because I think someone told like someone on his team by accident, like they mentioned it and they were sitting and they could hear us. So Johnny found out, and that's why Eve was kicked out, because then she started falsifying evidence to get his witnesses banned. So she was banned from court.
Yeah, wasn't she tweeting like what was going on in the courtroom like a moron?
Oh yeah, that too.
What was the thing that they were trying to say you couldn't be in there for? What makes you so dangerous, Izzy?
When I was 19, there was something that came out that Johnny had, or Amber Heard's dad, who is actually in jail for dog fighting right now because he's abusive. He had threatened to shoot Johnny. He owns guns and he's from Texas. Like he threatened to shoot Johnny for not giving Amber the money she demanded. And so I posted something that I used to say to like my brother, who thinks he's like some macho tough guy, which was like something, because people didn't think when I was a kid that I was athletic, even though I did ballet. So I said, Dick, actually I have punch shoes here because I fell down. They're hard. So I said, like, this has water damage, but like they're hard. So like if you were to like attack me, I don't look strong because at the time I was like very skinny and very like small, but like this can be a weapon. And I had written Mr. Heard. And so Eve told the cop that I had made a typo and I meant to write Miss Heard and that it was a threat towards Amber. And yeah, so I found that out and I fought that because I said, this isn't about anybody here. And eventually, like, the judge actually let me back in.
Good.
Like 4 days later. I think it was probably sooner, but they just couldn't find me. And then when they did finally find me, they're like, you can come back in.
Nice. All right. So what was that moment like when you first saw Johnny then?
Weird. I mean, it was, he was nervous, definitely, to be there. Like, he walked in, we weren't allowed to react. He just kind of looked at all of us and just like walked really quickly and just sat down.
Hey, in Indiana Jones, I think it's the first or second one, when Harrison Ford's teaching, he's a professor and he's teaching his class, and one of the students, she's blinking her eyes, and on her eyelids it's like, I love you. And so she keeps blinking at Harrison Ford. That's what you guys all should have done in the courtroom. You can't say anything, but you could all have a little message. Hey, Johnny.
I mean, that first week, like the only people who were there were people who knew this was actually going on, which were like the major accounts on Twitter. Like all those people like came out and were staying the whole 6 weeks. So like Laura and Brian and Jax and like all of them. So there was nobody that was just there to like be a fan of his.
Yeah.
And like I wasn't there to like be a fan. Like I was there because like, this stuff's important.
Yeah.
So
thank God they had the cameras in there, I swear. I think every trial should have cameras. After this, it doesn't make any sense if they don't.
Yeah. But because I was like kicked out while he was on the stand. I
Oh,
was so
bummer.
mad that I couldn't like watch that, but I could watch the live stream. And so somebody figured out where he was leaving every day out of the courthouse, which is in the back. And there were so I was like, okay, I'll just watch him leave then. So he would actually roll down the window and wave to us.
Yeah.
And there were 5 people there the first day that I did that. There was a paparazzi guy on a ladder, and then like one guy who's like a YouTuber and like filming stuff for his YouTube channel, and a couple other people. And so we all spread down the sidewalk, and he like waved to us individually, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And yeah, but then once he testified, people started watching it because it kind of went viral because he was like, joking around with her lawyers and stuff. That's the part that went viral, not the actual like incidents that he was discussing. But then people noticed, oh, you can sit in a courtroom with him all day. You can go, this is public, like you can go. And so they all showed up. When she got on the stand, it went even more viral. So then even more people started coming. And these people were not there because they wanted a domestic violence, like justice or whatever. They were there because they were like, oh, it's Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
And they would bring their kids. They would dress as Jack Sparrow. They brought their dogs. There was someone who showed up with alpacas, which actually the alpaca thing was like a direct reference to something he said. So like that, I was like, okay, I understand this.
Yeah.
But people were bringing their dogs, like dressing their dogs up with like noisemakers and like little kids there. They were running in the street trying to throw things in his car as like presents.
Wow.
I mean,
I saw the streets lined with hundreds of people every day.
That was just one street. It was just one street because Fairfax is tiny. And the way Amber described it on NBC News was that there were 6 city blocks filled with people trying to jump in her car with signs saying death to Amber, which nobody there even knew which car was hers. She would drive
Nor
in,
did they care. No one was waiting for her to leave the courthouse.
Well, they wanted to boo her, but they didn't know which car was hers. So I would watch her drive by and just be like, nobody cares.
Yeah.
There was nobody with signs even directed at her besides just like a couple saying like Amber Turd. That was it.
Now, was that before or after the grumpy testimony day?
Grumpy. Pardon the term.
I think it was both. Like,
okay, so just because her name goes with it, so that was an easy jump.
But there was no death threats anywhere, and she wouldn't even drive in the same direction. And what ended up happening was people would mob to like right in front of where he came out, and they didn't have enough barricades because it's a small town. This has never like happened before. So they started parking their police cars on the side of the road to prevent people from running to his car. So we decided to go farther down where he would drive by before he went on the highway. There was a couple stoplights, so he would stop sometimes.
Oh, nice.
But then somebody filmed him stopping and talking to people, and that went viral. So then everybody was like, oh, we can go over there.
Yeah, of course. But you got that lucky moment before everybody found out. Let me ask you about this. And I haven't been able to find it. Maybe you have it, or maybe you know someone who has it, because I would love to put it up in the episode. But there was a TikToker who made a whole video about Amber putting something in her sleeve and rolling it up very carefully, and then not doing that, and then sitting down. Tissues never get moved. You see it the whole time. Tissue's still just sitting there, but she randomly ends up with a tissue, and then she sticks her finger in her nose and goes, and
mental condition.
All right. It doesn't, it's still hearsay, Your Honor. May we approach? Yeah,
why the mainstream media doesn't give 2 fucks, I don't know, but I give 2 fucks. Did you notice that at the time? Tell me all about that.
I mean, I saw people like posting about that, but it wasn't something that I was really paying attention to because like,
I think in real time you wouldn't notice. You wouldn't you wouldn't watch that whole scenario, but when you watch the breakdown in a TikTok video where it's like, okay, now she's sitting, like you don't have to sit there and wait 2 hours for her to stick her finger up her nose. Like in the TikTok, it happens right away. But
I was more focused on like some of the like audio recordings that people were using. Well, they would like watch it and then like take the audio from it, and they would reenact what she was saying was happening.
Oh, right.
And the way that they reenacted it, you could tell it didn't make sense.
Oh, right. The
Yeah.
geography of the things that she said.
Yeah.
I saw those. Yeah. They acted out and they're like so in a weird position where the thing can't happen. Yeah, those are really good. There was something, I don't use TikTok at all, but I put something up and I'm not good at it. But he was in that movie. What's the movie that Johnny Depp was in where he plays a vampire?
Dark Shadows.
Yes. So there's a scene in that movie where he's talking to his wife, I think, and she's blonde, like Amber Heard.
Mhm.
And the whole dialogue in that scene is very
Oh, yeah.
their whole relationship. So I made like a little thing about that, but I'm imagine other people did as well, because I've never even seen that movie all the way through, but somehow I came upon that clip and was like, wait, this is way too much art imitating life.
But the problem with like it going viral on TikTok though was now the media had like their thing. They were like, oh, people are making a joke out of this. People are like, you know, spreading it
Yeah.
through TikTok. So therefore it can't be true. And they said if, you know, because this went viral on TikTok, everybody's getting their information there and they're not actually seeing what's going on. So they can't, they're all biased now. And that's why all these like there's actually like a documentary coming out
Oh, I know.
tomorrow, like, or the next day, like, saying that the jury was swayed by TikTok, but they weren't allowed. Like every single day, the judge would be like, "You're not allowed to look at social media." So how could they possibly like be swayed by anything?
Anyway, those things on TikTok aren't very I mean, it's just that one little act out, but all of the, I mean, especially the recording of the finger getting chopped off and her saying, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to, admitting guilt. Those are floating around the internet, and people like me are sitting at home like, why can't the jury hear this? You know, because case would be fucking over in a second.
They did hear it. Like all those
they
audios were
did?
submitted. Yeah, the second they played that audio where she was like, "I was slapping you, I wasn't punching you."
That one I heard, but not the
They,
chopped off finger one, because there's a doctor in that recording that had passed away. So I thought they couldn't use it, but did they use that?
I think they used like bits of it or something, and it was, but whatever it was, they could use like little snippets of audio to like question about, but the whole audio recording had to be submitted to evidence and the jury had to listen to the whole thing. And the whole thing, they're like several hours long. And so they get all the context. And then you get people saying, oh, they're edited down on YouTube, and they're not. Because if you look at what was submitted, which is publicly available into evidence, it's identical to what's on YouTube. So it's the same thing.
Okay, well, that's good to know, because I've been this whole time, it's been a year now, right? I always thought that the jury didn't have as much information as we did at home. And that was making me crazy, because it's cut and dry, because you hear her constantly admitting to, you know, trying to kill him, basically. I mean, I honestly believe, knowing what I know about cults, it's like sort of my thing. I'm very into that and how it all works. And based on what I know, I mean, she would have killed him eventually. I mean, she was trying. Eventually she would have been able to. I think that he would have ended up dead.
Yeah.
That's just my personal
I
theory.
think he actually thinks that too.
Yeah.
Because then there's also, there was one recording where he was actually threatening to harm himself. And she wasn't doing anything. She was just saying, oh, don't do that. Don't do that. And like, that's not how you would stop a person doing that.
Well, she wanted him to do it because
Yeah.
the whole knife till death do us part. It's like, and if you decide to break up with me here, you can go ahead and just kill yourself, because I'm not gonna let you go. Right? Isn't that what that gift was?
But she was like recording him doing that too. And I'm like, why would you be recording someone in that situation? If you listen to the recording, you can hear her texting. Like you hear like somebody's tapping the phone.
Yeah, because she's framing him and constantly recording conversations that you just don't record.
I think she actually, I feel like she wanted him to do that and like take his life, because then nothing would ever come out about her.
Well, and she would get his fortune.
Yeah.
Or what she could of it, depending on, you know. I can't believe she got him to marry her, man. Like, what magical sorcery was that? Because he didn't need to, and didn't seem like he even wanted to. So why the fuck did he? I would like to hear that conversation.
I don't know. But the reason the whole finger thing happened was because she wanted him to, or he wanted her to sign a like post-nup, and she didn't.
That's why she threw the vodka bottle and chopped his finger
Yeah.
off? Well. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he's just like, shit, what have I gotten myself into? Hey, do you think you could come sign this paperwork? Because I'm starting to wonder, What the fuck I've just done? Oh, Johnny. Hey, let me ask you something. Think of your favorite ad campaign in the whole wide world. I already know. We already know what it is. It's Sauvage. I already know. Did you notice anything about my top by any chance?
It looks very similar.
It's the top he's wearing in that ad.
The exact one, or like?
Not the physical one, because he obviously still has that, but I bought this. I'm wearing it today because I'm talking to you. Like, I'm specifically wearing this because we're talking about Johnny today. But I bought this in San Francisco. It's so fucking cool. It's giant. Like, you could wear it over a bathing suit, right? Like, it's really long. His is all shredded and chopped and stuff, but I bought this in a boutique in San Francisco. It was super expensive, but I just had to have it because I hadn't seen anything like this since I was like a kid, just like a straight up, the way it's cut and everything. But the lady who sold it to me was telling me how it's like authentic indigo dye from Africa. There was like a whole story about it or whatever. Let me ask you this. Are you wearing Sauvage today? Did you spray a little before we got started? You should have. You should have done a little prayer.
My cat really hates strong smells, so whenever I spray it, he like gets upset.
What's his name? David?
Dave.
Dave. Aw.
Yeah.
Cute.
He likes to sleep in my bed, so I can't spray it anymore.
No. Tell me more about like highlights from the trial, like the craziness, and were you guys all having lunch together and stuff? Like you and all like the characters from the interwebs that I've watched?
Yeah. I mean, we would eat in like the courtroom cafeteria, but I think what was most interesting though was just how the media was reacting to everything. Because as more fans came, they just started interviewing these people. And of course the people would just be like, oh, I'm just here to see Johnny Depp. I think one person actually told the media, I don't know who's innocent. They're both crazy, but Johnny's hot, so I'm here to like see him. And when I heard that, I was like, we gotta like say something. So I went up to all the media people and I was like, can I have an interview? And they would start interviewing me. And I remember Court TV was interviewing me, and I started talking about, we're here because men can be victims of domestic violence too, and we're here to spread that. And they were like, okay. And they shut off the interview.
Those motherfuckers. I like Court TV too. Oh, shame, shame. Do you have footage from that?
No, because it was never posted. Okay. But there was another
right, because they ended the fucking interview. Those motherfuckers. Don't you wish you had been recording so we could see these motherfuckers don't want to tell the truth over at Court TV. Okay, go on. Sorry.
Yeah, there was another guy who told me he worked for People magazine, but I think he was just like some paparazzi guy that would sell his stuff to like People magazine, TMZ. He initially interviewed me. It was never posted, and then I found like when Camille started like getting attention, he was the one who was stalking her, asking her if she was dating Johnny, which there is footage of. And I know this because like me and one of my friends, before people realized you can even like talk to the lawyers, went up to Camille and like hugged her. We wanted to. And it was accidentally caught on his video.
Oh, really?
And I think, and then everybody started harassing Camille. And she actually had to start coming out of the back door too to avoid them. And she became a guy.
What was the other lawyer's name? Ben Chew. Ben. Yeah, they became celebrities. Like,
she was uncomfortable with this guy. And I know because like one of his other lawyers was on the phone and saying that, you know, that guy from TMZ is like driving her crazy. So that's why my interview was never posted with him, because he was literally just paparazzi. Then there was the Long Crime Network. The lady, I think she works for them, was interviewing people. She said she wanted to do an interview with me, and Johnny had driven past us. He had stopped at the red light, and I was able to like shout something at him that he heard. And there's like a video of him like, you know, pointing at me. And so I was like kind of freaked out, and I was like, did you still want to interview me? She's like, yeah, sure. So she starts asking me like the same thing, like, why are you here? How long have you been here? And I was like, oh, I'm here, you know, to spread awareness for male domestic violence. And she's just like, so what did Johnny say to you when he drove by? Like, what does he say when he drives by? I'm like, he doesn't say anything. He's driving. Like, why are you changing the subject?
Oh my God, these fucking idiots.
That was the end of that. The one interview that actually was posted full was with Nick Wallace, which I wasn't going to do until he had just kept interviewing. He was trying to find people who supported Amber Heard there. There was like one or two. And he started interviewing them. And I was sitting in the grass, like, listening to this. And I was like, no. So I was like, can I do an interview? He's like, yeah. And he was super nice. But he did, I noticed, cut out where I said Eve Barlow was getting us kicked out of court. he cut out me
Interesting.
saying who it was because I guess he didn't want people to. I think he might have thought I was doxing somebody, but she's a public figure.
Right.
So like none of the interviews I gave, I think Fox did something, and it was all the same thing. They would just not post it.
Yeah, they wanted
And
like silly, fluffy bullshit. And you're like,
Yeah.
let's talk about male domestic violence. And they're like, let's not. Wow.
Yeah.
And they're still like, let's not.
Mhm.
The fucking Women's March. I don't even know if they're still backing her because I think they blocked me. I should look.
They blocked me too.
I'm pretty sure I've got to be blocked by the Women's March. But Jesus, I mean, I fucking marched with those fucking pieces of shit.
Oh yeah.
And then they're still supporting her even after the verdict and everything. I'm like, well, okay. I know who you are.
I think what happened was as soon as, because also I think Rolling Stone, this was funny, Rolling Stone copied the New York Post article saying that me and someone else had been kicked out, but they wrote the wrong thing about me. And the thing is, because I had debunked the tweet immediately when it was posted and they said my full name and stuff, and I was just like, yeah, this is me. This isn't what the tweet's about. You're just making things up. And my tweet had ended up getting more likes than the person who had written the article.
Good.
And so she turned off the comments because people were like coming for her. And then Rolling Stone wrote the same thing, but they changed what the tweet was. They were like, I was doxing her location, like Amber's location. I was like, no. I said she was filming a movie in Watford because she was. She was at Leavesden Warner Brothers Studios there and filming Aquaman. I said at the time, like, that's where she is. She's not in London. She's telling everybody she's in London. And that wasn't doxing her location because she wasn't there anymore. She was
Right.
in Virginia, and I didn't know where she was in Virginia.
Right. So none of you don't have any interviews that saw the light of day that talk about why you guys were there supporting Johnny.
Except the Nick Wallace one. If there's this huge injustice here, then I need to do something about it.
What else are the highlights?
Well, I mean, it just kept getting crazier. The Amber had about 5 people there that did support her. One was Christina Taft, who I don't know if you know who that is, but she is certifiably insane. She had this huge poster board that she was going around telling that Johnny was gonna hire a hitman to kill Amber, and she was leaving flyers on people's cars in the parking lot to like get them to support her.
Wow.
Because of this, which is illegal, because you could sway the jury. You don't know which car's theirs. She had a bullhorn too. She was kicked out pretty quickly.
Christina Taft, is this just like a regular citizen or is she?
She has met Amber. I don't
Okay,
know.
she's just
She's
like a
like
normal-
friends with like Bowsy and like I don't know who she is. But
Okay.
yeah. Then there was one girl who was actually very nice. She's the one who there's a video of Amber getting flowers people think is not real. That like it's staged, but it's not staged. Like she was actually there to support her. And she was really nice. Then there was the guy who was going around with the sign with his Twitter at, which was like Amber Stan 11 or something. And he was giving some interviews. And then one day I went behind the courthouse because I had like an hour before Johnny would come out and smoke during lunch. So like we would all stand there and like wave to him. And he would wave to us. But we were all like sitting there and I was there. There was no one else. And he was there with his sign. And I found that a bit weird. And it got weirder when people like were coming to support Johnny and he was telling them, go the other side of the driveway. Like Johnny's side's on the other side of the driveway. And I was sitting there like, why are you telling everyone to go over there? So I started telling people, oh, just come sit over here. It's a better view. And he visibly was getting angry and then he left. So I think he was going to shout something at him and wanted everyone to go the other side so they wouldn't stop him. So people were weird.
I bet. I mean, you get a big enough group of people in one setting, there's going to be some weirdos.
Yeah. I mean, it was just like her fans were just crazy. But those were really like the only 3 that I saw that were like her fans. I think the last day there might have been a couple more, but
Yeah, that had to have been hard for her. Although I don't know that she gives a shit because I don't know that she gives a shit about anything.
Well, she was using it to make herself the victim, saying that, oh, the court, like the jury would look out, you see the sea of Captain Jack Sparrow fans, which is what she said. I'm like, how would you know we were Captain Jack Sparrow fans? We're not allowed to dress like that in court. How would you know?
Right. And sitting on her side of the courtroom.
Yeah, so she was like, the jury was obviously swayed by how many fans were there for him. Like when you leave the court, they're all outside cheering for him. And I'm like, okay. They
Yeah,
didn't
that's
leave the same
unfortunate.
way. They weren't leaving the same way.
How awkward was it to watch her continue to look at the jury when she was giving her testimony?
I wasn't in the room that day because what ended up happening was people were lining up at 1 a.m. to go in every single day. So I was like, I'm gonna sleep. I don't want to do that. I did it once and people started getting in physical fights. So
Ooh.
yeah, the police were called like 3 times.
What about the day she stormed out of court?
Yeah, I wasn't there for that either, but I watched that live and I was like, she just leave. I was there for when her psychologist, Dr. Smeagol, testified. Or Spiegel. Called him Spiegel as a joke.
It might as well be Smeagol. I mean,
Yeah. We were all like sitting, just we didn't know how to react to him because he was just weird. He was just so weird.
oh, it was so weird. I feel bad for that guy. But also he didn't know what the hell he was talking about.
He seemed very egotistical because he got up and he was like asked like, who are you? What have you done? And he was like, and I think he said like, I wrote this book, this is a good place to plug my book. And that's when all of us were like, is this guy serious?
So weird. And then this whole thing with his mouth.
Yeah.
Although I heard that that's some kind of condition, and then I was like, oh, well, then people shouldn't make fun of it, and I feel kind of bad. I still don't know what the deal is with that.
Well, I don't know if that was a condition. I think he was just doing that because he thought the question was stupid and didn't want to answer it.
Yeah, it didn't seem like a condition. The whole thing was so weird. I'm sure you watched when Ben Chew and Johnny were like reacting to it, like, what is going on with that guy?
We couldn't see their faces, but like we all kind of had the same reaction. I was there for like in the beginning, like when his sister testified and like when Isaac testified, and like everybody, we were all like loving Isaac's testimony, and then he started breaking down crying, and like you could hear a pin drop in there because nobody was expecting him to do that, and it was like one of the first witnesses, so it was kind of like because we were all like, oh, this is kind of funny, like the way he's like talking, and like, and all of a sudden like it just got so serious, and it's like we all just kind of remembered like this is very serious stuff. Her lawyers did not know how to react to that at all because they weren't expecting him to do that.
Her lawyers must have got clued in real quick, like, oh my God, we've been had. Now we have to finish this.
There's photos of like some of her lawyers just sitting there just like this. I feel like maybe like Mr. Rottenborn, kind of him and Elaine, I think did keep supporting her to the end, but the rest of them, I just don't think they did.
Yeah, Elaine, I'm trying. She's never gonna live that down, poor lady.
It was funny because actually before Camille got up, and because we were all sitting outside and I was watching the live stream, weirdly I was the only one watching the live stream, but before she got, like right when she got up to start questioning Amber, this giant thunderstorm like rolled through, and it was just like so poetic almost.
Yeah, was that happening the whole time?
It stopped raining by the time like they were done, but it just started pouring rain.
So that was going on while that was happening. That is, yeah.
On the first day, and then the second day the sun was out, but
interesting.
It was weird just like over time how crazy it ended up getting. Everyone there who had been there the whole 6 weeks, it felt like, because I used to go to ballet camp and you'd be stuck with the same people for 6 weeks and you'd all become friends with them. It just kind of felt like that.
Yeah.
Like those of us who had been there the whole time, we all became like friends with each other.
Do you still keep in touch? I mean, probably on Twitter, yeah?
Yeah.
That's really cool. I mean, that was a moment in history, and y'all were there. That's an exciting time. God, it's so great for him to do a victory lap immediately after the trial. Just the way that was all set up, and his friends had that all laid out with him, with Glenn Beck first, and then now with the Hollywood Vampires. Like, he didn't have to go home and stew it was just like, I'm free.
Which like annoyed everybody.
Yeah.
You can just tell like they were taking like pictures of him like constantly, like saying, oh, he looks disgusting, and like was drinking like water out of like a Solo cup. They were like, oh, he's drinking alcohol because it's a Solo cup, and he's singing is off key and nobody's going to these concerts, and
oh, that's not true.
Oh, it's not true.
No, you can't lie in the internet age because we all get to see it with our own eyes.
Yeah, but then as soon as the trial ended and Johnny was like going off doing all this stuff, and Amber then went on NBC News and decided to give her like, this is what I've been through, and I was saying this is a lie, and then she said no woman would ever come forward about abuse now and name their abuser. So I was like, okay, so I did, and her stans tracked him down. I didn't even post his full name. They they found him on Instagram because I think he had brain cancer, which I didn't know him when he had brain cancer. He had like gotten it recently. They found his cancer fund, and so found his full name from that, went on to Instagram because he's dumb and made it his Instagram handle was his full name, and started DMing him, getting like asking like, is this true? What do you know about her? Like, is she lying? And he told them, and I know he told them this, not because they've shown me, but because I know what he says about me. And they were repeating word for word the stuff that he would say, which was that I was some crazy psycho who was obsessed with him and trying to date him, which is not what happened at all. It was actually the opposite.
Well, that's classic Darvo.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't the exact opposite, but he was trying to at one point have sex with me, and I was telling him no, and that's what made him upset. But yeah, that's what he was telling people, and the only reason I found out was because he contacted one of my friends and said like, are you still in contact with Izzy? Why is she doing this? And can you report her Twitter account?
Yeah, it's really nuts. You've been doxxed, right?
Mm-hmm.
You were doxxed at a job or something?
Oh yeah, I didn't post where I was working. I think I made a TikTok like as a joke that had nothing to do with anything, just at my job. And because they figured out which mall I was working at, and it was like a holiday pop-up thing. So they contacted the holiday. They didn't even contact them. Like, I don't think they would care if they had just contacted them. They were going on their Instagram and spamming their comments, like saying, why would you support such a business that would like hire these kind of people? So they had to fire me from that, which I don't care because it was going to close in a couple weeks anyway. But like they had to fire me from that to get them to stop. They contacted PetSmart because I was working at PetSmart.
I used to work at PetSmart. That was one of my first jobs.
Yeah.
I was a brusher bather. I loved it. I didn't like my manager, but I liked hanging out with the doggies.
Yeah, I was like one of the animal caretakers, but they got me. They tried to get me fired from that job, and it gave them the illusion that they did because I was let go, but not because of them, because the company was saying that we hadn't made enough money that quarter, so get rid of all the part-time workers.
Yeah,
well, but it gave them the illusion that they had done that.
Who do you think these people are? Who are these people? Is it young kids? Like, who has the time of day to be fucking with you? Like, what the hell?
Some of them are teenagers, but some of them are like posting in their bio even that they're married and they're like 30 years old with full-time jobs. And I'm like, why this is your hobby? Like, this is what you're doing? Weird. They have my post notifications on too, because I can post something within 2 minutes, they're replying to it, like screenshotting it and replying to it, but they're not, I have them all blocked. So they're doing it through burner accounts.
Right. That's a big fucking problem on Twitter. It sucks.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't attracted enough shitty attention yet to have that be happening to me, but it happens to my co-host all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Psychos.
And like half the stuff, I mean, there's been people like saying, and I don't really like give them credit because, or like give them like, any sort of like emotion, I guess. I don't care. I think it's kind of sad and funny.
Yeah.
But they're like saying, I hope your entire family dies and your cat has to be like adopted out, and like, they attack like every single aspect of me. I posted I'm Italian American. So all of a sudden you get there's an account that made like a parody account of me called Pasta Equality because they think that I'm fighting for equal rights for Italians. I'm like, we have equal rights. I'm pointing at something out that happened historically.
I know. I see how you clap back, and it's very funny. I like your sense of humor. People are ridiculous.
Yeah, and it's like you can't take them seriously. And I get a lot of people saying like, why are you replying to them? It's like there's a lot of stuff I don't reply to, but when I see something like to that level of ridiculous, they Photoshop like a baby picture of me as Rapunzel for some reason. I don't really know why. But when I see something like that ridiculous, I'm just kind of like, I wouldn't reply to this because it's just sad. But you had to save a baby picture of me on your phone in order to.
Oh, I saw that the other day. Yeah, that's creepy. It's like, think about what you're doing with your life. Like, I don't know you. I don't even know where you live. You live some other place and you're taking screenshots of my baby pictures. Yeah, that's next level fucking creepy. I saw that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that people won't stop bothering you.
That's the kind of stuff I reply to, or the stuff that's like legitimately like dangerous information they're spreading, because I was posting something saying, I think I said, I speak out about obesity because everyone in my family died of obesity related diseases.
Right.
And this whole thing of like promoting like obesity is wrong. And I've experienced actual fat phobia being a dancer. They posted that I am clinically obese because anybody who's my height over 110 pounds is obese. And I was like, the only reason I'm replying is because that's dangerous to post, because that's
Right.
like not true at all.
Yeah, you don't want kids saying that.
Yeah, which whenever I reply to these people, they lock their accounts so nobody can reply back to them. And for a couple of days, and they continue. And I saw
Cowards.
somebody.
And these people need to find something else to do. But it's really cool that that you went out there to support, and that you saw something going on and got curious enough to look into it. So many people don't. And the way the media handled the whole Johnny Depp thing really sucks. And this documentary coming out, which I know is just going to be a big biased piece of bull crap, it really sucks because there's things to be learned here, and some rotten people don't want those things to be learned, I guess. Yeah. They don't want to know that men can be victims so that they can, I don't know why. It's weird.
I think it's her PR team doing it, because she fired her PR team after the first week of the trial and hired a new guy who is like a convicted rapist or something. But he was sitting in the courtroom using his phone, and the judge was getting really pissed off at him. And he's like just a nasty, nasty person. Like the people that he's like done PR for before, like he's just awful. And so he's, I think, paying these newspapers to write this stuff.
Yeah, someone would have to be, because again, there's better stories to be had out of all of this, things that could actually sell more papers, but this weird agenda. But
and what I found, what I've actually noticed though, is since Elon Musk became in charge of Twitter, during the trial, everything supporting Johnny was going viral. Now you get a tweet somebody calling Johnny ugly, 100,000 likes. Like I'm like, where is this coming from? Or like a tweet saying something completely unrelated. I think Jennifer Aniston and Jamie Foxx, something happened with them, I don't know, but Jennifer Aniston like posted something and people were upset about it, and somebody went on Jennifer Aniston's account, posted that she was following Johnny, and that and to like say that she's a terrible person, that got like 50,000 likes. And I'm like, how is this going viral now? And it's only on Twitter. You don't see, you go on Instagram, it's all positive. YouTube, it's all positive. Even TikTok, a lot of it's positive. Like I posted a video on TikTok recently of like Johnny having like a physical trauma response something, and got like I think it's almost at 800,000 views.
Oh yeah, when that guy came up behind him.
Yeah. And it's like, it's all positive there. It's just Twitter, and Elon Musk is the one that owns Twitter.
Yeah, Twitter has been acting weird, and there's no way to tell what strings Elon's pulling and what strings someone else is pulling. I'm constantly being shadow banned because of my gender critical stuff, and it's really fucking annoying. But yeah, who knows what the hell's going on over there. I think those were all the questions I wanted to ask you. I just wanted to ask you about, your experience there and what that was all like. And thank you for taking us on the little journey of what the day-to-day was like from someone that was there.
Yeah.
And thank you for talking to me.
There's definitely like a video on my YouTube channel of like a day that I was there, like what I was doing the whole day and stuff like that.
Oh, nice. I'll put a link in the show notes.
Yeah.
So anybody who wants the inside scoop can take a look at that. All right. Well, thank you so much, Izzy. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Laughs right back at you.